Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's brief ag forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. I want to start with the map I showed you on Monday. It's the last 30 days in terms of percent of normal precipitation. And I want to talk about the fact that this region in through here and right over through here has been quite dry over that time period. Parts of the high plains getting back to New Mexico, and then the lower Mississippi River Valley into parts of the Carolinas here. Now, when we think why we get a scenario setting up where this region stays dry, it's usually due to the lack, when we get into fall and winter, of what we call the subtropical component of the jet stream. That's the one that comes out of, about 10 to 20 degrees north latitude over the Pacific and then runs across California, the Baja of California, Mexico, and really helps deliver a lot of precipitation to this region. We've not seen something like that set up yet this year. Now, we have a lot of time throughout winter to watch it evolve, but just not yet. What's important is that when we have a La Nina developing, and we're going to finish this video here talking about that La Nina, we tend to not have a strong subtropical component to the jet stream. And we tend to focus more of our flow along the US-Canada border in terms of the jet. And we're seeing that right now. This is the jet stream pattern that's developing that, or helping develop that deep low that's spinning up and soon to become vertically stacked, which means the upper level low sits over the surface low over parts of Lake Superior, and it's just going to slowly move to the east over the next 3 days. But you see how we have the polar jet here and the lack of a subtropical component to it. And that's going to be something we need to be thinking about and watching possibly evolve as we go through the next several months, because without that, my concern over drought development from California to Texas and across the Gulf Coast, maybe even to the southeast, continues to increase. And again, that's something we talked about on Monday. Well, let's take a look at this low that is curling up here over the Great Lakes. And let's just zoom in and have a closer look there, because we saw winds today coming through the plains that, and we're going to continue to see them, that are hitting speeds of like 30 to 60 miles an hour, sometimes the gusts getting faster than that. We've got cold air on the backside bringing in the snow. There's blizzard conditions going on in parts of Manitoba and in Western Ontario. And this front, wow, did it move quick today. It started off the morning here and has already advanced that far across the United States, bringing a shot of wet weather with it. We still have quite a few hazards on our all hazards weather map, including the mixture in through here, which includes winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings. There's actually a blizzard warning in here, and you can even see the strong wind conditions on the back side of this. The northwest continues to get hit with some strong onshore flow as well. We'll take a look at that in a second. But behind that front that's sweeping through this section of the United States, the temperatures have dropped off 10 to 20 degrees, and it's going to usher in quite a bit of cooler air into this section of the United States through our weekend and into early next week, while the western United States begins a warm-up as a ridge redevelops there. I was looking at some satellite imagery this afternoon just to see the shape of this low. It's got a very well-defined dry slot on the back side of it, and this is right here along the upper level front that moved very quickly today through the eastern Corn Belt and is heading off to the northeast tonight. So that was one very fast-moving front across the United States here we've seen lately. Well, where's it all going? Let's go ahead and just jump right into the models. This would be the 12Z GFS on the left and the 12Z European on the right. Playing just through the day on Friday, so this is Friday 6 a.m., getting out to Friday noon and Friday afternoon. That low really begins to curl up into parts of, the Hudson Bay, just south of it here. And the main upper level front clears the northeast by Friday evening. We get a lot of stuff wrapping around the backside. You can see it in both models, including some additional snow. We'll take a look at that snowfall total in a few moments. We still see a lot of moisture getting kind of pushed into Washington, which is where we have our flood watches in place right in through here. Well, this system slowly moves on out, but I want to talk about what comes behind it on Saturday. In fact, let's stop it here at noon on Saturday. Both models are picking up on this second short wave that's going to produce a weak area of low pressure that's going to run right through Minnesota and Wisconsin. So this is Saturday at noon, Saturday at 6 p.m., and getting to the overnight hours. And that's going to deliver another round of precip here while we have some lake effect snow going on and that snow coming through Minnesota and Wisconsin on the backside. You can see that by the time we get out to Sunday, this is Sunday midday, that system is sitting over the eastern, or just generally over the Great Lakes here, still causing problems. And as we stated, a lot of strong onshore flow coming in to parts of Washington state there along the coast. Okay, the next system that shows up here after that one pulls into the northeast on Monday is going to be in the Canadian Prairie. And the models are a little bit different on the timing on this. Let's just get out here. How about Tuesday evening? Notice at that point, the GFS, which is usually a more progressive model, brings that system along the US-Canada border here and gets it into Western Ontario. Whereas the European's a little bit slower with it on the back side here. And we see that quite a bit, right? But what I want to watch is the tail end of the front of this system next Thursday. So this is 6 p.m. next Wednesday. Let's get into now Thursday morning. There it is. Now you can see the European curls the low up here over this part of Ontario, and there's the main frontal boundary. We're feeding this with winds coming out of the south just like that, and on this side, back side, we got winds coming out of the north. But in the GFS, the system is a little farther to the east. We actually have some mid-level flow that's setting up what we call, if you look right in through here, deformation. That happens right there on that line. It's also called frontogenesis, the building, the creation of a front. And the GFS is very aggressive on precipitation at that time period. But what you noticed is the first system went like this. The second system went like that. And the third system is doing something like this. That's that US-Canada border storm track we get without the strong subtropical component to the jet stream. All right. And if we just look out there, going out this full week, in fact, I'll just show it to you. The next system that comes through, it also kind of runs there along the border. And that's going to continue to be the case until this pattern begins to shift. So how much snow are we talking about here? Well, on my color bar, remember, I break away from the grays at 4 inches. So we have an area in through here that could pick up 2 to 4 inches of snow, with the heaviest amounts of snow falling right here into this part of Ontario, where between 6 and some places maybe approaching 18 inches of snow could fall. We'll get some lake effect out of this and some snow in the interior parts of New England. All right. GFS, similar story. Look, I'll go back and forth. This is just the next 5 days from the European. Here's the next 5 days from the GFS. Both models doing relatively similar amounts on snowfall, though the GFS is a bit more aggressive here in the eastern Great Lakes with the total amounts of snowfall, including into interior parts of New England. But when we compare the models kind of on their total precip, the thing that probably jumps out to you is right here. And that's next week, next Thursday, where the GFS sets up that very well-defined front that cuts from Missouri through Illinois and Indiana and southern Michigan. The European has it farther to the south and less moisture. Where the European is wetter is with that system going through the Canadian prairie. And the GFS is the most aggressive on what's coming into kind of the I-5 corridor here into the Willamette Valley. So that's some of the model differences. Now, beyond that, let's go out and just take a look at what week 2 is going to shape up like. What I've got for you here is the jet stream level pattern. We're looking down on it on the North Pole. And what I want you to see is this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those troughs. Because if the flow pattern, let me just draw it for you, comes around like this, okay? This ends up giving us a lot of convergence in the midsection of the country, therefore tends to not be overly wet. All the action will be running around the base of this up the East Coast. The West Coast, will probably be drier and also warmer. And we see that in the European model. Okay, GFS is very similar. This will be the area that we're going to watch out for a little bit more activity. Near normal precip in the midsection of the country, but we are drier in the west, although I think it's a little bit too dry. I think we'll see more onshore flow. But look at this again. We just remember the position of that trough, and that one. Okay, hang on to that for a second, because I want to talk next about temperatures, and I want to come back to this. We expect some pretty chilly air to get into the southeast, and according to the National Digital Forecast Database, everything you see in gray here will have a temperature at or below freezing over the next 7 days. So parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia that hadn't had it, including parts of North and South Carolina, we're going to get those cold temperatures in place, and that's also going to hit the Red River Valley of the South. To show you the high temperatures, though, let's go take a look at this. We've already seen Thursday's high, so let's get into Friday. Here comes Saturday and Sunday. That's the blast of colder air that's coming through here. Watch the west rebound with that ridge, though, and that spreads into the plains by Monday and Tuesday. Go back up into the 70s again right in through here. I mean, that's incredible. And this slowly starts to shift east by next Wednesday. If we look out there at the day 5 through 10 time period, this is what we get from the 12Z GFS ensemble. I'm mostly concerned about the fact we are now starting to see in this region a lot of cold air set up. It's on the northern side of the storm track, and there's snow in this. So that's important because as we go into the end of November, December, that's the reservoir I keep telling you about that needed to get set up to give you that cold air that's going to come through. But there's a bit of a mild go of it, day 5 through 10, and then that's replaced day 10 through 15. And this gets us out to kind of our Thanksgiving week. This is when we see that colder air coming through here in the eastern half of the United States. Now, a moment ago, I talked to you about this pattern, and I'm going to talk to you more about it because the MJO is really preferring phase 5. Not just now, but it did in October. It tried to get out over here and then came right back to phase 5. It has a preferred phase right now. And the reason for that is all about this La Nina. You see, this La Nina continues to produce its strongest trade winds, the nose of those strong trade winds, which is what helps that cooler water show up. It just stops them right about here. And then coming out of the Indian Ocean, are winds coming out of the west. And so they meet in this area, and there the air rises. And that's over phase 5. Now, if this La Nina continues at this strength, with the nose of the trade winds bumping up against those westerly winds over there, sitting over phase 5, this is the resulting pattern. Now you see it? That's MJO phase 5 during a La Nina. And this is what we've got in the 10-day. Very consistent. Weak ridging over the Great Basin, trough Gulf of Alaska, trough East Coast. So this means more mild days for the west, more colder than normal days for the east. Possibly drier in the southern plains with no subtropical jet, but a very active U.S.-Canada storm track with these systems dipping into the northeast. The source region for the storms are coming out of the Gulf of Alaska. And Europe is cold. I'll finish with Europe being cold in just a few moments. So when we think about all of this, let's go here, our La Nina. This is going to continue to develop. And there is some consensus that this is going to develop all the way through January. Now, it's the pairing of that with the cold water you see here and here that I'm going to talk about in a few moments. Because in the near term, we're getting this signal from the European model. From now through, let's just play this on out. This is through mid-December. This is through the 3rd week of December. And now let's get all the way out there. Let's stop this on Christmas. You see, more often than not, this corridor is going to be where that colder air gets let out with more mild conditions south and in the Great Basin. But the Northwest continues to be targeted with some stronger onshore flow. And you can see the results of that when I show you the precipitation pattern. Now, you see the real effect of the lack of a subtropical jet stream. More northerly track hits the Northwest, the Canadian Prairie, the Northern Plains, into the Great Lakes. That's from November 25th to December 25th. Now, in addition to this, I want to show you what's going on in Europe, not precipitation-wise, but temperature-wise. There's still quite a cold bias in the models here in the forecasting for Europe, and it looks as though the front half of Europe is going to favor that. But the question is, what is the second half of winter going to look like? That's where we get here. You see, the models right now are predicting a peak of this La Nina around December, January. After that, if the trade winds fade, they're going to fade first. The ocean temperatures will slowly warm up. We could, for the second half of winter, develop what we've been missing so far, which is the subtropical component of the jet stream. And what I'm most concerned about is if this temperature pattern looks something like this now, and then fades through the next 4 to 5 months to where we maintain cooler water here and along the west coast with a fading La Nina south, and I'll just drop right in here a developing El Nino. Because historically when that happens, it tends to favor the possibility of drier conditions in the Midwest and plains as we get into the next summer. Now, there's a lot riding on this, and we're being very speculative. And if this all warms up here, throw that whole forecast out the window. But I'm going to watch this carefully, and I'll keep reporting back to you over the coming weeks and months because I think it's going to be our most important story. The fading of this La Nina to possibly by next spring and summer INSO neutral with maybe the atmosphere behaving El Nino-like. So that'd be the opposite of what we've experienced for the last couple of years. I'm going to wrap it up here. I'll talk to you again early next week. Thanks.